Hi, this is Mr. O'Shaw from Daft Apple Games, and I'm going to give a little demonstration of the Unity modding code template that I've made available for download on my GitHub. So first step is to go to my GitHub repository and download the latest release from there. I'm going to keep that. So once you've downloaded the zip, we're going to extract that to download folder location, and in here you should find a folder called templates. So we're going to copy that, Control C, into our Visual Studio 2022 documents folder. So on my machine I've got OneDrive installed, but however you've got your machine set up, if you click on Documents, Visual Studio, you should get to the same place. So I've got my templates folder here. I'm going to paste that on top of the templates folder in my Visual Studio installation, and that should be it. That should be the templates installed. So we can now fire up Visual Studio. I've built these templates and tested these templates on Visual Studio 2022 Community Edition. No reason to believe they won't work in other versions, but I haven't tested on anything other than 2022 Community. So once you've loaded up Visual Studio, you click on Create a New Project, and what you should find is a new project template called Unity Mod BepInEx. So we're going to select that, click Next. So these templates, they are focused on the BepInEx, and I'm pronouncing that how I think it should be. I have no idea if that's right. The assumption is that your mod plugin is going to run under the BepInEx modding framework. If you're used to using Qmod and you're modding the old versions of Subnautica, for example, these templates aren't going to give you what you want. This is purely for Subnautica 2.0 and the below zero latest version. These mods will also work fine in below zero. But the code, the boilerplate code that's provided is really for use in the BepInEx framework. So there you go. So create your new project, selected the template. We're going to call this my first. We're going to do a below zero mod. You can create the solution in the same place as your project. Keeps things nice and simple. Click on create, and we have a mod. So first things first, we need to set up our references. So you'll see a number of warning symbols in the project. This is because the templates don't know where and which game you want to patch, where it's installed. So first thing we want to do is identify the location of the Harmony library, BepInEx library. I'm going to assume publicized game DLLs, just because using publicized libraries just gives you that much more power in your mods. And we want the Unity core module and the Unity engine DLL. If we click OK, we should see all these warning symbols disappear. So we've now got the baseline references to create a below zero mod. So just going back there just to show you again, I've picked the DLLs library files from my below zero installation on eGames Steam apps. Next, what we want to do is we want to check the properties of the project, and we want to look at the post-build events. So the project template comes with these post-build event commands that create a plugin folder in your BepInEx plugin location and copies the resulting mod DLL into that location. So what you've got to do here is, before you do anything else, make sure that the path here is pointing to your target game folder, BepInEx plugins, and same here. So this line is going to create a plugin folder if one doesn't already exist, and this line is going to copy the compile DLL into that location. So it's basically automatically deploying the mod as you build it. So once you've set those target paths up, you are pretty much good to go. A quick rundown of what the project template provides then. So first of all, there's a kind of a baseline BepInEx plugin class. So this automatically creates a GUID that you can amend as you see fit, and plugin name all based on the project name that you specified when you created the project from the template. It also includes some examples of BepInEx configuration. So we've got examples of a float, an integer, and a keyboard shortcut in here that you can use or not use as you see fit. So these are key constants that basically define where in the BepInEx config file these settings are going to appear, and how you reference them and search for them in the settings changed event, which we'll look at in a second. And these are the physical config entries of the specified types. There's a float, an int, and a keyboard shortcut. You can remove these, you can keep them, you can change them, do whatever you want. Included in the awake method, which gets called once for your mod, there's a demonstration of how to set up those configuration items for float, int, and keyboard shortcut. So there's some defaults that you'll either want to change if you've got a specific use case, or you might want to get rid of these altogether if you don't want to use them. What else have we got here? We've got some logging that will just give you a bit of confidence that your mod is working, and an example down here of a handler for the settings changed event that triggers when your player goes in and modifies BepInEx config through the configuration manager plugin. So again, this is boilerplate code. You might want to do something completely different. You might not care, in which case you can remove this stuff. But it's there to give you some guidelines and some framework to work within. There's also an example in here of using the update method in the BepInEx plugin class, because this works like a mono behavior in Unity, and this update method will get called once per frame. So it's a useful place to do things, such as look for a key press. So in the example code included with the template, this will basically loop indefinitely while the game's running, and if the player presses the keyboard shortcut that you've defined up here, so I think it's defaulted to control A, left control A, then this code is invoked. So you can use this to manage keyboard shortcuts in your mod, for example, to trigger some sort of behavior. So this is boilerplate code, and it's just here for you to use as a reference, as an example, but do review and remove and change the stuff that you need to change. That's kind of the big, the main chunk of useful code in the template. You've also got a sample patch class. So the template kind of suggests a structure for your mod layout, which may or may not be what you want to do ultimately. This is just a guide. But in this structure that I present through the template, each class that you want to patch has its own class, patch class within the patches folder here, which just keeps things nice and clear and separate. So in the template, you get some boilerplate code that sticks some events around the player. So we've got some patch prefix, patch postfix code that executes when the player component triggers the awake message in Unity. So again, just a suggestion for our structure and a suggestion set of boilerplate code with some naming conventions that you might want to adopt, or you might decide that you don't want to adopt that at all. In addition to those template classes, then we've also got an example mono behavior. So again, this is a suggested structure where you might want to add your own Unity mono behaviors to your mod. If you're implementing completely new functionality, it might keep things nice and simple, and it might be helpful to wrap that up in its own mono behavior that you then attach as a component to something else in the game. So again, really just a template with some guidance that you can choose to follow or not follow. And some examples in here of some of the key Unity messages that you might want to implement in your mono behavior. Finally, we've got a boilerplate code around a static utils class. Again, you may or may not want to do this, or may not find value in this. I tend to have a number of static methods that I frequently use within my mods, and I like to keep them separate. And this is a placeholder where you can include and create some static methods that provide helper functions for your mod that may not sit nicely within a mono behavior or within a patch class. So that is that's the template. And having set the references and having set the post-build scripts, you can hopefully immediately right-click and rebuild and build the mod DLL. And if you've set up your post-build scripts correctly, they should also deploy the mod DLL to your game plugins folder. So we're going to take a stab. We're just going to fire up below 0, and fingers crossed things might have worked. So I always have the BepInEx Configuration Manager plugin installed. It's just really useful, and it means if I hit F1, I can access all of my mods config in one place. So you'll see that the mod that we've just compiled and deployed automatically is showing us that we've got this float config entry that we can adjust, and this slider is controlled by configuration that's included in the code. Same with our integer configuration item in there, and we've got our keyboard shortcut A, left control left control A. So if I am hitting control A at the moment, and that will be triggering the code in our update method that we looked at earlier. So the mod does nothing else. There's no functionality in there yet. It's just a template, but as you could see, it compiled, it ran. We could see the configuration, and what we can do now is, well, first of all, we can see here we are. Here's the DLL that was automatically deployed into our plugins folder, and we should also be able to open up the BepInEx log and see some output. So here's the logging from our awake method that does all the harmony patching. So we can see it's prefixed with the name of our mod, and we can see some of the the debug output. So you can see there that we have logged our key presses using the keyboard shortcut that we set up, the Control A shortcut. So, and that is it really. So hopefully you can see there by setting up this this template, you get a lot of code pre-written, some personalized tweaking based on the name of the project. It's also picking up your login, Windows login username there to automatically create a GUID. And aside from setting some references to the game that you want to patch and making sure that the post-build events are set up correctly, you've essentially got enough here to create your first mod with configuration settings that can be tweaked by your player. Also included with the template zip are some individual item templates. So if you want to add a new patch class, for example, each of the classes that I include in the suggested structure here have an item template as well. So if you want to create more of these, you can do so with the same boilerplate code as the project template provides. So if I put in create a new Harmony patch class, you can see that I automatically create a bunch of code for an additional class here that might be for something else that I want to patch. So I might want to patch some methods on the C truck. So I can do it in one place here. Rename this class to C truck patches, and Visual Studio keep a nice synchronization between the class name and the file name we give it. So as you can see, this gives us a kind of a way to structure our code nicely and helps you guys with a bunch of boilerplate code that saves you having to type a load of stuff to get a structure and a mod up and running quickly. You'll see in here that the template hasn't recognized the name of our plugin class, but that's very easy to resolve, and we can just update that to call the correct login method. One for a future update, I suspect. So as I say, there's for every file class that's created out of the project template, there's an individual item template for you to add more of the same as part of your project as you build out your functionality. So that's it really. There's a pretty extensive README on my GitHub for the project template. I would very much encourage you to read that in detail, just to familiarize yourself with what the template pack does and doesn't include, and also really to reinforce that this is a set of example code in an example structure that is going to require you to apply your own changes to make the mod your own. And in some cases, some of the code that's provided you won't want or need, in which case you're encouraged to remove that code or replace it with your own. And that is it from me. I hope this was useful. I hope the templates come in handy. I hope it saves you some time. I can often be found lurking on the Subnautica modding Discord if you've got any feedback, or you can leave feedback on my GitHub. I'm keen to continue to develop this and build on it to give the modding community something that is really useful. So all feedback is really welcome, and please don't hesitate to tag me or shout on the Subnautica modding Discord. Thank you for listening, and that's it from me. Thanks. Bye.